Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Flash Fiction session. The first one in August, and it's the 1st of August, so obviously it's the first one in August. And I'm looking forward to do some Flash Fiction with you. Unfortunately, we are still just me today because my co hosts had the one or the other issue, but I hope they will be dropping in later and will be able to do some cool things with us. I hope you guys had a good time. And I see Ilka is ready to join. So let's give a big round of applause for Ilka. Hey there.
Hi,
How are you doing, Ilka?
I'm fine. I'm very happy and excited to be here today and looking forward to some flash fiction.
Very good. I think I need to close my door because otherwise I hear you double. So let me just do that real quick. So, Ilka, last time, your first round of Flash Fiction. Did you recover from it?
Oh, yes, actually had a lot of fun and I'm looking forward to pour out some ideas today. And since I couldn't prepare, that's the idea of it, getting random half sentences. I'm excited about having thrown at me something I have no clue about yet and make something interesting out of it, hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, you never know what the muse will do to you in a Flash Fiction. It's a rough territory with a lot of dangers. But it could be good, could not be good. We will see. Are you ready for your first line, Ilka?
I'm ready.
Okay. Oh wait, before we do that, I see David is joining us. Hello, David. How are
Hi,
you doing? You are you're very roboty on our end. And a bit shaky. It's still roboty.
What's going on?
but you're looking good.
Yeah, you're looking good. Sounding like a robot, but looking like a hot android. Now we don't hear you at all. And I see Daniel joined us, so let's get him into the game.
Hey, hi.
Hey there.
Hello again.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Fine. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We just rushed back from the allotment, and here we are. We've brought all these vegetables home. This is rush, but yeah, this is fun.
Very good.
David, you're on mute.
Healthy week.
Yeah, David has some audio issues.
He's on mute, I can see.
He had a roboty voice.
Oh, right. So he muted himself, I see.
Probably did.
No, I'm going to give him a hand and frustrate him. We'll have it live on YouTube.
Yeah, you can show your support skills live to the world.
It's going to be great.
See you in a bit. So, Ilka, do you want to see the first line while the gentlemen are working? Are you excited for it?
I have an issue as well because Word document has an unsafe document that isn't mine.
That sounds not too good. But if it's not yours, why do you care?
I think it's yours.
Yeah, if it's something for me, you can destroy it. It's no problem.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
You still sound very roboty.
David, can you switch to the microphone on the headset?
I'm on it.
Oh, can you switch to the other microphone then on the camera?
What about that?
That's better.
Yeah. Now you sound very good. Hello, David.
Oh, hello. Good to see you all.
Yeah, you sound lovely now. Perfect.
Thank you.
So you guys
Great.
have a lot of vegetables now?
Many vegetables, not many raspberries, but they're very tasty.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Very good. Are you two ready to join our first flash fiction?
Yes.
Are you ready already?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Then I will reveal the first line that we will be working with tonight. And the first line is, when she arrived home, she noticed that the curtains were closed.
Nice.
Add that as a banner. And I will start the timer and we can dive right into our first fiction.
Can you say the sentence again?
Yeah, you should see it in the banner, or do you
I
have
didn't
words?
see anything.
Okay, so it is, when she arrived home, she noticed that the curtains were closed. Okay, so our time is up.
Hi.
Hi again. Yeah, that
How
was
did it go?
that wasn't as easy as I was hoping it was going to be. I don't know what I was expecting today, but I managed to do a page. How did everybody else take that one?
It was scary. It was such a scary story.
Ah, almost finished. There's probably 2 sentences to go before it went 0. And yeah, it was a little scary, my story too.
Yeah, mine's definitely scary.
Yeah, mine is as well. But normally I try to make a complete story in the 25 minutes, and this time that didn't work. I'm at the beginning of something that could go on for probably quite a while longer. So it was a nice prompt, but it's not a complete story.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. Not really complete.
Yeah, well, I literally managed to do it with about 10 seconds to spare. It could be complete. I think it could work. I don't know. I was editing. I actually changed the tense of the first few paragraphs halfway through, and then I find that frustrating in a live event because I was like, oh, but I think I want to edit now, and I'm like, stop it. But I did anyway. But then I thought, no, this could work. I think this could work as a little snippet. But it could also possibly be an introduction to a longer story. I mean, there's certainly some unanswered questions.
Well,
I feel the same
why
way
don't
about
you?
my story.
Sorry, Vika?
I feel the same way about my story. It came to me like a flash, like a little movie, and I got to write story-wise exactly what I wanted to, but the wording and the grammar and everything, that's not edited yet. I think that has to be done. But it could be a whole movie, or it could be just the snippet. I thought of the snippet, and for me, that's done like that. But there could be even a TV show for like 2 seasons.
Okay. I think it's enough of the teasing. We want to hear some of your stuff now. So who would like to go first?
I'll go.
First last time, you go.
Yeah. I just realized I was going to go, no, we'll just follow that same old route that we did last time. No, we'll mix it up. All right. So, yeah, it's untitled, but wait for the punchline. Okay, here we go. Julia would pull into the driveway of her home at approximately 9 p.m. that evening. The backseat of her car would be jam-packed with bags and cardboard boxes full of items she had purchased at the supermarket. Her journey back being delayed by both traffic and her mother's constant calling, which, due to the fact that she did not ever drive whilst being on the telephone, meant that Julia would have to pull over at least 3 times in order to silence the incessant beast. "When are you coming home?" was her mother's usual question to begin with, and the last time she called was no different. "Mama, I'm nearly there. If you would just stop calling me, I might get a chance." Her mother had wept quietly, and Julia had immediately switched tactics. "Mama, it's going to be okay. I'm nearly there." And that had quietened the sobbing a little. "There's somebody in the house." Julia had sighed, as this hadn't been the first time her mother had reported a supposed intruder. This time Julia had left her a few hours since, but even if it had been 30 minutes, a 30-minute escapade, her mother would still have called her with some reason to come home immediately. "Mama, last time you said you thought it was a big dog that you heard. Now you think it's an intruder." "I did hear a dog. I heard it snarling. It was snarling from the kitchen. I could hear it. Now I can hear somebody walking up the stairs." Julia's mother had been bedridden since the previous year. A stroke had left her paralyzed down one side, and then shortly afterwards another one ensured that she would never walk again. It had been up to Julia to look after her since that day, and from that point on she had never had a moment's peace. "There is no dog. How on earth would a dog get inside the house?" "I don't know," her mother had yelled. For a sickly elderly lady, she certainly had no trouble in raising her voice when she wanted to. Mama, I'm hanging up now, and please don't call again. I can hear him at the door. He's trying to get into the bedroom. Mama, that's enough. Now I'm only 10 minutes away. And with that, she hung up, and then she switched off her phone. It's just ridiculous, she said to herself. And at that moment, all Julia had wanted to do was turn the car around and keep driving, just anywhere, as long as it wasn't at home and her mother. There were very few moments of peace in her life anymore. The only moments she could find would be first thing in the morning, when she would open up the kitchen curtains and let in the sunshine that would flood over the front yard and into the kitchen and onto her face. Although her mother would awaken shortly afterwards and ruin the good feelings, that moment of joy was special to Julia, and she always left the curtains open until the evening, so she could prepare for the morning ritual again with just a few moments to herself looking out at the stars. When she arrived home, she noticed that the curtains were closed.
You went to the end.
Nice. I like the build up with the
Yeah.
call and the mom, because you don't know if the mom is a weird person or if there's really something in there. That's a really good setup.
Yeah, I like it. And I feel with the girl and the mother-daughter situation is very strained. I like that. But I can feel it.
Yeah, that's definitely there, isn't it? I'm not sure where this come from actually, but yeah, that Julia certainly, and her mother and her bedridden mother. Yeah, you could have. That's the thing. You can definitely go into it more, can't you? But that it just sort of finishes, and I'd sort of go, oh, that could almost work, right?
Yeah, there's a movie coming up.
Absolutely.
This is movie material. You can't imagine the story coming and going on.
Yeah, very good.
Alrighty, thanks, guys.
Ilka, do you want to continue?
Yeah. So I gotta find it. This whole switching thing is okay. When she arrived home, she noticed that the curtains were closed, and she could see the spotlights being on full beam, even though it was mid-afternoon and still daylight outside. She immediately worried. Someone was home when they were not supposed to. There was no sound. That always proved to be worrisome. She froze. In her mind, Heather was hurrying to the door, fiddling with the keys, rushing in, stepping in, having a look around, and when she was supposed to see what was going on, she started all over again, running towards the house, opening the door. It felt forever to be trapped in this loop, when she finally forced herself to move and actually opening the door. Matt looked at her, grinned, teeth flashed, still the carving knife in his hand, blood all over the floor, kitchen counter, the walls, and even the ceiling. This time he didn't even try to hide his doing. Heather's mouth was open, yet no sound escaped her. Her mind froze again, and she tried to make sense of it all. She couldn't. There was so much blood. Matt usually, when he had those outbreaks, would show signs. He would disassemble a squirrel or a rat, but this time it was so much blood. She was caught by utter surprise. Matt spoke first. This was way more fun. We will do this way from now on for always. I feel free. Finally, this is it, Mom. This is what we have been searching for my entire life. We can cancel Dr. Walters. I found my own solution. Aren't you happy? You don't look happy. Are you happy? You're happy, right, Mom? Mom? Heather tried to function. She tried to force a smile to calm her voice before the words even leave her mouth. Matt, I see. Of course I love you, boy. Mama will always love you. Tell me what happened. I want to understand, so he got back grip of reality. scared to her essence, trying to hide her feelings. Tell me, Matt, what is the process? Matt, well, it turned out Celia is good. She has much more substance, more blood. The skirts are so small. That is why it never worked. Celia has so much blood, so much flesh. I ripped through it. And it freed me, Mom. I'm free now. I can repeat this now whenever I feel the darkness. All I need is the curtains and music. No one will ever know, you know. The boy smiled all over his face, freakishly scary. Heather got into functioning mode now. Okay, Matt, we will fix this. Get to your safe room. I will handle this. Well done, boy. Let Mommy handle this. Mom, can we cancel Dr. Walters now? Yes, hon, we will. Heather turned her back and started cleaning.
It's dark.
Started cleaning up.
We expected blood and gore from Ilka, and she delivered once again.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Oh, I
absolutely.
forgot gore.
On cue. Yeah, that was really dark. I thought that was. I actually thought that it was a different relationship at the start, not mother and son. So
Yeah,
that
I didn't think it was mother.
I thought, wow, this is really going to a dark place. But then it was like, it's funnily enough, when you turned it into a mother, it's like, well, of course she's going to cover up for him.
Clean it
course.
up.
That makes sense now. If it's a girlfriend, I think that would be slightly even scarier.
That would be different, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a bit of a Dexter vibe from that whole thing.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, definitely the Dexter vibe.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think I was inspired by that, now that you say it. Yeah.
But scary.
Yeah, I felt scared.
And yeah, absolutely, I get what you mean. It could go, yeah, it could go longer. It could be contained just as that. That would work.
Absolutely, as a short story,
Mm.
but it could definitely go further.
Yeah.
Backwards
So, Ilka,
and
you
forwards.
You should really start in the blood and gore pulp section and right
Yeah,
there. I think you would
Yeah.
be very famous.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big market for that. Scarily.
They're coming up some more murder in this house right now.
You know, I'm a bit worried. There's just a flimsy door between me and her.
Well, you know, I can't move good and fast, and I can't handle a knife, so you're not to worry.
Yeah, for another week or so. Okay. David, do you want to go?
You want me to go? Okay. So I think mine feels like not just a fragment, but just a framework. But anyway, we'll go for it. When she arrived home, she noticed the curtains were closed. She was sure she'd left them open this morning when she left for work. It was a ritual for her to greet the sun when she awoke. It was not something she was likely to forget, and no one should be there, as far as anyone knew, she lived alone. She got out of her car, grabbing her handbag and clutching it to her chest, feeling for the comfortable bulk inside. Cautiously, she walked to the front door, scanning the windows as she approached. There was no movement, and the door appeared closed and undamaged. Rather than continue that way, she turned left and walked to the side of the house. There was a gate leading to a narrow pathway down the side of her house. It passed the kitchen, which had frosted windows, and then past the living area with its high ceilings. The end of the path had a mature buddleia bush, which obscured the view of anyone inside. She knew the layout of the back room well, as she'd spent many hours watching bees humming around the purple flowers of the buddleia. She carefully peered around the bush and looked inside. The room was empty, and the back door was closed. There was still the upstairs, and she was unsure which door to use. Of course she could call for help, but if there was truly someone in there, she needed to stop them before they found out what was in the attic, or dispose of them if they'd stumbled across the room and its inhabitant. If anyone was in there, it had to be a simple intruder, as no one could have known what was in the attic. But what if someone had found out? She was a private person, and such behaviour tended to attract attention in a quiet suburban street. People gossiped at the best of times. She was sure no one could know, but had to be. She'd been so careful, hadn't she? It had been 6 months since she'd found the young man. He'd been injured and terrified. It took some time to convince him she was not planning to hurt him or let anyone know she'd found him. They'd walk down back alleys and double back on themselves to ensure they weren't followed. Once inside, she'd led him straight to the attic, and then went and got materials to treat his wounds and make a bed for him. Despite the language differences, she was able to work out he'd been attacked by a group of men who'd noticed his differences when the wind had blown his hood from his face. There'd been no quarter, he'd been left for dead. Of course, his kind were much stronger than given credit for, so she wasn't surprised he'd been alive when she found him. He'd asked why she was helping. She'd replied she'd once known another like him. They had loved, but she had been discovered just after the reactionary revolt had begun. They had been a casualty of the first wave of no tolerance, and she'd barely escaped alive. She tended his needs for the last months, and he'd been getting stronger and stronger. He knew if he was seen, he'd be killed, and she surely would as well. Harbouring the different was now a crime punishable by death, and she was under no illusion of the risk she was taking. She always wished she'd done more the last time. If anyone had spotted him, that would mean there'd be government people inside ready to clean up the mess she'd created. She knew she should run, but she just had to know. Carefully, she unlocked the back door, crept inside. There was no sign of activity downstairs, but the door to the front room with the curtain was closed. She reached into her purse and pulled out the gun, illegal to have, but she was never one to follow rules that were so inhumane. She pushed the door open and was surprised to find a shape on the couch. She raised the gun and went to shoot when she realised the shape was the man from the attic. He turned and smiled. His 3 eyes showed delight. He pushed himself off the couch with 2 of his 4 arms to greet her. And that was as far as I got. On the last bit, I rushed because there was a bunch of paragraphs in between.
Yeah,
Wow.
nice one.
I
Very,
love
very cool.
Ooh, it's 3 twists. First, I thought she's like Misery and
Yeah.
punishing him and torturing him, and then I thought, wow, that's awesome. That's a nice personality. And then, whoa, alien!
Yeah,
I
she's a.
like that.
Yeah,
Oh, this is awesome.
there's differences.
Yeah, it was.
And probably had the 3 twists because, if I'm honest, I didn't really know where it was going. I just let it unfold, if you like. It's like all of a sudden I thought, oh yeah, she's looking at. I knew she was hiding someone, not hurting someone.
Yeah.
But I wasn't 100% sure why, what the difference is. And then I thought, oh, make it really, really different.
It is.
Indeed.
I think it's awesome. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also like the mentioning of the government, because in my mind this was USA with the
Yeah.
gun. I was irritated and thought, well, this is not guns are not that unusual, so that it has to be a different kind of setting. And the mentioning of the government again, it made me think this is a different kind of government. And I'm thinking right now, wow, this is control, maybe like 84,
Mm.
1984, in this direction.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah, but I think I need to make a new thumbnail for our next session, something dark and spooky, because we are all going into very dark places.
Really easily and quickly.
I was also very happy that I'd written 200 words more than last week.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Well done.
I was excited by that.
Didn't get to count them.
Well, then I
Let's
will
go,
continue with
Thorsten.
mine.
Yes, please.
When she arrived home, she noticed that the curtains were closed. When she had left this morning for today's farmer's market, it had been a bright and sunny day. She was sure that the curtains had been open. Pearl loved to lay in the sun, and Anne made sure that she could. She set the paper bag with the groceries on the counter and flicked the light switch. A dry click was all that happened. No light came on, and it was very dark in her apartment. The closed curtains filtered away almost all of the remaining afternoon light. Pearl, honey, it's Mommy. She went to her knees to greet her white cat, but she did not appear from the apartment. A cold dread started to spread in the center of Anne's chest. Pearl? Still nothing. Should she run out and call the police? But what would she tell them? That it was dark in the apartment and her cat did not come? They would laugh at her and call her a sissy girl. And she did not move into the city to be called a sissy girl anymore. She could hear the screeching harpy-like voice of her mom in her head. I told you, Anne. I told you that you would come crawling back home with your tail between your legs. You are a good-for-nothing brat and will amount to not anything unless you marry a rich guy. Anne's lips tightened. She needed to deal with whatever this was by herself. Her hands wandered over the counter until she found the knife block. She selected the big butcher knife, but then countless movie scenes with helpless women with big knives came to her mind, and her hand wandered further to select the slimmer filleting knife. Cliché averted, she made another step into her dark apartment. She inched her way forward, pausing after each step to listen. She could not hear anything but her own harsh breathing. She heard no Pearl or anybody else. The apartment sounded completely empty, but why did it not feel empty? She sighed, and upset by her own sound, she clamped her mouth shut with the hand not holding the knife. She continued towards the window, blindly feeling with her fingers for the curtain to let in some light. Something fell deeper inside the apartment, making a small tinkling sound as it shattered on the hardwood floor. Pearl, is that you? She said. Is there anybody? Something? Ah, it's gone. Do you know how many people hope for their life that they will not get an answer to this question? Said a deep, dark voice directly into her ear. Her heart hammered in her chest and she screamed. She blindly slashed with her knife, only finding empty air. Who are you? What have you done with Pearl? What do you want from me? You really must love this cat, came the answer from the darkness, but you should worry less about it and more about yourself. Anne made a dash towards the apartment door. There was a thin line under the doorway, like a beacon. She almost reached the door when rough hands grasped her hair and yanked her back into the darkness. She screamed in pain and fell hard to the floor, knocking the air out of her lungs. A heavy shape straddled her, and large hands pinned her hands next to her head. Let me explain the situation to you, said the voice so close to her face that she could smell the garlic on his breath. Good. At least he's not a vampire. And that's how far I got.
Also a nice twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely not finished. I'm not sure what will happen there, but it would need to go on for a bit.
I'm very scared about Pearl, and I always think that stories about pets or animals are very, very super scary. And I was very worried. I still am, and I would like to.
Yes, I was worried about Pearl.
Sorry?
I was worried about Pearl.
No. I think she can handle herself, but Pearl, that's another story.
Yeah, so I have no idea. I don't know who the guy is and what he wants and why he's in that apartment yet. But if I had another hour or so, I probably would find out.
Well, he's no vampire, but he still could be a werewolf.
He could be, or just an unpleasant person breaking into somebody's home.
Yeah.
You're muted now, Daniel.
Daniel's muted.
Yeah.
That helps, doesn't it? I'm finding that the similarities between all our stories are actually quite interesting because it didn't happen last time, but this time I think there's a lot of stuff where I went, "Ooh, morning ritual," or shopping at the
Yeah.
supermarket. Yeah. It's like interesting.
Yeah,
That's-
we had it
Sorry?
with the bully story. We had some quite similar storylines with the bully story.
Yeah, there's similar themes in that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the homecoming part, it suggests that someone was out, and this homecoming part means there was something, either work or shopping or some tasks. So that might introduce the whole mindset that builds up to the similarities.
Mm.
What I find interesting is that we all had someone hidden in the house. It didn't have to be.
No, it could have been the curtains were closed and she was excited because it meant somebody was home she was waiting for.
Yeah.
Could
have gone into
that
an
way.
erotic direction, but obviously we are not wired that way.
Not romantic.
No.
There are no candles in the bathroom, and the fiancé surprised her with some great stuff. No.
No.
It's an invader. Something dark and scary happens if someone changes your apartment from the
could
way
have
you
been-
remember
Yes.
it.
It could have been evening. The husband or the wife could have been home already, prepared dinner. Everything would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or it could just be a closed curtain for no
Yeah.
reason.
Well, yeah, she might have forgotten to open it.
Yeah.
That simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be really
Pearl had
mundane.
closed- Or Pearl closed it.
Oh yeah. It could be.
Cats are pretty clever.
Yes, they
That's
are.
true. But we also heard that Pearl loves the sun, so she probably wouldn't have
Ah,
closed
yeah,
it.
that's true. She probably would have opened it. Yeah. That's true.
Well, that was interesting. You guys want to do another one, or do you want to continue with the stories we are working on now? Because they are all sort of in between. Do you rather want to spend another 25 minutes on continuing it?
I like a new one. But I go
Yeah, a new one. I'll do a new one.
Okay, then I'll do a new one. Let me get the prompt in. That's not. Wait, that's the one I want. Okay, so the next first line is, ooh, there was a legend about the well in the garden.
Can you copy this into the chat so I can copy it out?
Yep, I can. And I will.
Thank you.
Okay, well then I will start the timer again.
Ready? Off.
There we go. Happy writing. Talk to you in 25 minutes.
Ta-da.
Okay, so we are back.
Ah.
We are back in the studio. How did it go for you?
Good. Again, I feel like I've written a snippet. I'm going to decide that it's all just Carver-esque here. It's just little bits of stories. What was it? About 500 words. So not that prolific. And I'm actually finding today, I don't know why, it's just a lot harder than last time.
Why do
I'm
you
not-
think is that? Are you more
I'm pretty
nervous
sure it's
or
Ilky's fault, actually.
because he's so bloodthirsty? You just want to know how much blood and gore and corpses are in her well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure, but it is. Yeah, it's just been hard. But having said that, I still feel like it's great, and it's a fabulous. This is really a wonderful exercise. I can't wax lyrical enough about this.
No, I agree. I find it magnificent. I
Mm.
didn't quite finish what I wanted, but this time I had this sort of story in my head. And initially, mushrooms were going to be involved, which Daniel will understand. But I cut it. Again, I think as the time starts to go, you suddenly go, ooh. So the end is often a bit rushed, and there's about 2 more paragraphs I wanted to write for it to be finished, but I did know where it was going to end this
Yeah.
time.
I'm sorry to disappoint. I'm not even close to be finished. I got lost during writing, and I had this whole story in my mind. And I think this can even be a short story. It needs a couple of paragraphs, of chapters. It needs a couple of chapters, and I only got to the point where now the story really begins. So I was lost with this one. The idea is there, but I didn't get it to paper. So I'm very sorry.
Don't be sorry. Sometimes you just need to have a bit more time. Also, it could be something you finish on your own as a
Yeah.
project.
I will,
Yeah.
because the cruelty now starts.
Okay. So there
You
are no
didn't give me the
corpses
clue.
there yet.
Not yet, not yet. You know there will be, but
There will be corpses, yes.
Yes.
Is there any fast cars in it?
no, but a fast boat.
Okay. Well, same for me. I'm not in a story mood today. I'm more into scenes in my head. So today it's just not wrapping into a complete story. But they are beginner scenes for maybe also a story that I will continue. Is it okay if I start with mine?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you make the pictures bigger? Because I think I'm down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. There we go.
Hey.
Perfect. Sorry. Okay, so there was a legend about the well in the garden. Their grandmother had told them this story so many times that Marie and Fran knew it by heart. The well in the garden was a doorway to the realm of the dwarfs, where gold was plastering the streets and tables filled with food were standing at every corner. All you needed to do to reach this realm was to take the biggest acorn of the old oak tree, paint it in your blood, and throw it into the well. Then the doorway was opened, and you would land in the realm of the dwarfs when you jumped into the well. Marie and Fran were never much interested in the gold on the streets, but all that food sounded so delicious, and Granny could talk about this food for hours. Her mom said it was because she had been a scullery maid at the castle and had seen so many food that she knew exactly what kind a dwarf would like. Then Da had been furious when he had heard about this story. He took them to the well and made them promise never to climb into it. He told them that the only thing they would find down there were big, fat, black spiders that would make your hand black and bloated with their bite until it just exploded. Da told them he saw this happen with one of the farmhands that had come over for the harvest, and the poor man was now the village idiot over in Scrunt. Marie and Fran had promised Adar never to climb into the well, but the story had never left Marie's imagination. When Fran got married, she became too busy to deal with old stories, and when Mum and Dar died from the illness, she and her husband took over Dar's fields, but the old house and the well next to it fell into disuse and disrepair. When Marie barely escaped the clutches of a fat 50-year-old merchant who needed a young wife to warm her bed and birth an heir, Marie knew there was just one place that would be safe for her to go to: the land of the dwarfs. So now she stood in front of the house that she had grown up in. The reed of the roof had sagged, and the whole house gave the impression of sinking back into the ground. She looked through the thick cobwebs in the doorway into the darkened room within. The hearth where Grandma spun her stories was cold and empty. No fire had been lit in it for many years. Marie had not come to look at the shambles of her past. She turned toward the well and mustered it. The whole of the well was ringed with rough-hewn stones about 2 feet high. On a sunny day you could see shimmers of silver in some of the stones. Fran always said this was a sign that dwarfs and their treasure must be down there. Today was overcast, and black clouds were riding a storm that was boiling down from the south. They were awash with white sky fire and rumbled in discontent. Marie would be soaked by rain in another 30 minutes, but she did not plan to be here by then anymore. The stone ring was once topped by a wooden lid, because her dad had been a clever man and knew his daughters well. Now the lid was sagging into the hole, and when Marie touched it, the rotten wood groaned and fell into the well completely, causing a splash that echoed up the shaft of the well. Marie pulled the acorn out of her pocket. She had spent most of the day searching for the biggest one, and when she found it, it was almost the size of her thumb. She took a peeling knife and pricked her finger next. Red blood welled forth from her wound, and she smeared it over the acorn, making sure every spot of it was covered. By the time she was done, gusts of wind shook the branches of the oak tree, and the thunder was ear-shattering. She pressed the acorn to her chest and said, "Please, please work. Please show me the way to the wise dwarfs." She then held her hand over the well and opened her fingers. The bloody acorn plummeted into the darkness. Marie listened for the splash, but then with a roaring, mind-numbing crash, the sky fire hit the old oak tree and blasted it to thunder. The roaring noise deafened Marie, and when she came back to her senses, she saw that the grand oak tree was split in two, and its branches were covered in a roaring fire. Marie gazed down the well, and then without further thought, jumped.
The entrance.
And that's how far I got.
No, that's good
It's
though.
good.
I
That's
like the
definitely the
lens.
start. That's the start of a trilogy at least.
Yeah.
See that coming. And I like how you describe the things, like the houses going back to the floors or ground. Like you can feel things being old. I like that. That is
Yeah, it was
very-
really good. Yeah, I agree. I saw the I saw everything that you were describing.
Yes, yeah.
It was very,
definitely.
very. Actually, how many words was that? Because that sounded like a lot.
It was 800 something. Let me check.
Well done.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Was a lot.
Let me check how many it's were. 809.
Wow. Yeah, because that's also I just felt like, wow, you type fast, don't you? But also I kept getting caught up in thoughts, but it didn't seem like that was happening to you at all.
Yeah, sometimes I have a really clear picture, and then I can just follow this picture and it just flows. And this is what happened here, but I cannot change the picture. If you know what I mean. I can just write this film in my head. I cannot change it or move it. If I try to move it, it gets stuck. But if I just let it flow and then see where it just goes really quickly.
Hmm.
Oh no, I'd like to hear more of that one.
Yes, absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, me too, because I want to know what's inside the realm of the dwarves. I get a feeling that the realm of the dwarves is not as it was described by the grandma, but I don't know what's happening there.
No,
But to Ilka's dismay, I think those big black spiders might play a role in the story still.
Yeah,
I don't think should
I'm
be
afraid
reading more.
that really caught me. I felt all the pain and the disgust and the fear, and that was a scary part. I didn't enjoy that very much, but it's a good thing. Most people will like it very much. And I'm
Yeah,
very.
also,
I'm
it
looking
wa-
forward to see the other 3 books of it.
Yes, definitely.
okay. Well, thank you very much. Who wants to tell their story?
We go backwards this time. So then
Oh.
it's my turn.
Yeah, well, go for
And then
it.
Ilka and then Daniel. There was a legend about the well in the garden. Legends were not something Paul West intended to believe in, but he had a curious mind and was intrigued by the tales he'd heard from multiple sources in the Sussex village he now lived in. England, of course, was awash with legends, so such tall tales were nothing new. But the well in the garden of the old Tunbrook mansion was unusual, in that most of the stories were more about what people had forgotten after they'd visited the well. No one could remember exactly what they'd seen or heard, but always spoke in a reverent whisper with eyes darting as if to make sure no one was there to hear their words. At first Paul assumed it was a local laugh when he'd heard the tale at the Cock and Bull, the only drinking house in the village. Paul had arrived to the area 5 years ago and was still considered an outsider, but his intelligence and wit ensured he received a level of respect and an assumption that he could help with their woes. So people kept telling him the tale, and after a while he realised the locals all thought they were the only ones that the strange experience had happened to. After a while he became intrigued and decided to research the building. It was something he was good at. Soon he ascertained the mansion was 350 years old and was unusual because it had hardly changed in all that time. The size and structure were identical for when it had been built for Frederick Tunbrook in celebration of his marriage to Fleetwood, Lancashire. He had to agree to the building before her father would give him permission to marry his daughter. After all, he was the Duke of Lancashire and Frederick was only a merchant needed to prove he could bring value to the Lancashire name. Frederick loved Fleetwood so much that he would do anything, and the mansion had arisen at great cost. The work had been done by the finest craftsmen and the garden designed by the best gardeners of the land. In researching, Paul found there was no well in the original plans, and Frederick had demanded it be built as the project neared completion. By all accounts, everyone that they'd been happy for the first few years, and then Fleetwood felt pregnant. Then the records for the house became very difficult to find. It made no sense to someone so used to researching, and at first he became frustrated, until he realised what all the accounts of the place he could find all had a similar theme. Every account spoke of someone forgetting or nearly remembering something about the mansion. At times these accounts were of people who'd become so unwell after visiting the mansion, and some had been sent to insane asylums, so deep was their distress and confusion. As Paul looked deeper, he realised the legend of the well had existed for nearly as long as the house. Each description was minimal and meaningless on their own, but after reading so many documents, he noticed a pattern. For the first time in his life, Paul was unable to find an explanation for something. He liked to burst the bubbles of the gullible who believed in the supernatural, and had often found the more mundane reason for people's fears. But the legend of the well had him stumped. There was nothing to do but go see for himself. First he tried to find out who now owned the mansion, but was only met with confused looks from the locals. He could find no record the place was ever sold. It appeared to have been abandoned. When he reached the place, he was surprised to find everything well cared for and the house looked lived in. He called out, but no one answered. He wanted to explore the place, but went straight towards the back garden where the well should be. And then he saw it. It was as if the sunlight was shining from above onto the well, but the sun was not in that position. For such a banal structure, it radiated light and seemed to be bouncing light in an unnatural manner. And then he saw the people, a man and woman with 3 young children sitting near the well. They noticed him and looked up. "Can I help you?" asked the man. "Who are you?" said Paul. That's actually as far as I got, and with 10 seconds I just wrote, my name is Frederick Tunbrook, and this is my family. You're in our house." The children pointed at Paul and said he was dressed funnily. That was when Paul noticed the clothes the young family were wearing. They belonged in the 1800s. He walked towards the family when suddenly out of the well climbed an unworldly figure. That was as far as I got. But the unworldly figure is going to be a tall fairy. And basically what happened is he couldn't afford to build this mansion, so he did a deal with Fairy King.
Oh,
Nice
that's
one.
so amazing.
That's where we were going with that. But I didn't finish it.
Yeah,
It's a
you
nice-
finished it.
Yeah, please finish. It's a nice Call of Cthulhu scenario. Let's go investigate,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, David, it's more and more apparent that you have to continue with us in our Shadows of a New York campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel that.
Yes.
Because with that kind of skill, you are desperately needed in there.
You have so much to contribute. You could help us out.
Okay. All
There you
right.
go. That's what this is really about. This is a
That was the
secrets agenda to recruit David to our campaign. But no, that was fun. It really did sound like there was a history unraveling, and I was captivated.
And I definitely, I deliberately chose the name Fleetwood for Daniel's amusement. We've just both finished a book, and one of the characters, her name was Fleetwood, but she was a real person from Lancashire, and the fact that I just liked the fact that there was somebody named Fleetwood back in the 1500s.
I love the fact because I'm a huge Fleetwood Mac fan, so Fleetwood is
Well,
all
yeah.
good in my book.
No, exactly. We love Fleetwood Mac, and when we came across the name, I thought, gee, that's an unusual name to make up for someone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't not till you get the end of the book, you discover that all of the characters in the book were actually real people.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful book about the witch trials in England.
Great book. Highly recommended, actually. The Familiars by I can't remember who. Oops, sorry,
I
authors.
don't know.
That's horrible.
Well, I love the story, and I would love to read more of it because it has this eerie, positive touch, and I'm so interested and lured in. So yeah, I second that. You have to join us because we need that. We need that in our stories.
Yeah, he could really contribute very well. Stacey
Yeah.
Halls was the author. Sorry, I was just I feel bad mentioning somebody's work and then not actually giving them credit for it. Considering we're in a writing thing.
And also, you made research fun, which, as we are all burnt
Yes.
children, we all think research cannot be fun, so you proved otherwise just now.
Yeah, I'm
I
burned like that.
Yeah, I did name the character after a friend of mine who is he actually lives near Stonehenge, and he's an author who writes about all sorts of unusual things, but he is a pretty intense researcher.
Nice one.
So yeah, I could see him. I could imagine him in the pub going, "Stop speaking your woo-woo."
I
think
like
we're all-
the Fleetwood Mac part as well for a very much different reason. From the beginning of time, back when Torsten and I met, we noticed that we are totally different in everything, and we're different in music taste as well. So he liked Fleetwood Mac, and every time a song of them would play, back then there was radio still a thing, he would say, "What band is that?" And I would say this and that, and he said, "No, it's Fleetwood Mac." Go on like 1,000 times, and every time he asked me, it was Fleetwood Mac, but I would never recognize them.
I only asked when Fleetwood Mac was playing. I never asked this question except for Fleetwood Mac, but took her 20 years to recognize the pattern.
I didn't refuse the pattern. I just thought he would slip me up. And
Yep,
one
tricked you.
time I say Fleetwood Mac, he would pick a different. So I wouldn't say Fleetwood Mac even if I thought it might have been. So, and I only learned to recognize Fleetwood Mac when Sixie Mixie was
Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks.
was on American Horror
Horror
Story.
Story.
Since
Yes.
ever since then, I recognize the voice.
We had a
Does have
lovely
distinctive voice.
We had a lovely Fleetwood Mac story. Our son and his girlfriend was in the back of the car, and we were driving somewhere, and they decided to put some music on. And I think it was Landslide, but it was being covered by some new group, and they put it on, and Daniel and I went, we started to sing along, and the kids are going, "How do you know this song? It only came out last week." That was quite
That's
fun.
good. That's good.
Yes, that was surprised.
Yes. We definitely felt a bit old too when that happened, of course. But
Never do. The really sophisticated people, they know things from before their life. So if I recognize something from the 80s or even 70s, I can always tell it's not my age. It's because I just read about things.
Exactly. Well, I know music from the 50s and 60s, and I wasn't there.
I do too. Yeah. And I even read books that are older than me. So.
Yes, exactly.
yeah, that's true. I do as well. So we've had dwarves down the well. We've had a fairy down the well. Ilki, what do you have down your well?
Probably a gore-drenched slasher.
It's something different, but I will disappoint you. We will see.
Oh, okay. All right. Not a problem.
There was a legend about the well in the garden attracting a few travelers from all over the country every year. The village had built a business around the fact and at some point introduced the well honoring fest to attract all sorts of people. Not many, though, know the real story behind the legendary celebratory day they attend. On May the 5th, this special day, the Well Honoring Fest starts and it introduces the Well Honoring Week, with markets, games, competitions, and of course fully booked hotels and restaurants of the little village. Everyone happily is celebrating the well, which was built in 1989 by Arthur McCormy, a red-headed sailor who settled down here in Little Roxburghshire and built the community around this well. It provided life and wealthiness during the hardships in the history of dry and rough times. But what was not commonly known, a very well-kept secret of the mayor till today, is what happened on May the 5th, 1 year after the village's founder had finished building the legendary well. The day the well turned red for 1 day. It is said the well was built by a brave visionary who led his people into the wealthy and happy, healthy life here at the East Coast. A strong fighter, a good-hearted and strong man with a will to be the exemplary leader everyone wishes for. No one ever allows themselves to even think of the dark sides that can shine up in even the best of us, let alone speak of the old knowledge. As the mayor has many duties, he also has the privilege to read the first book ever written in Roxburghshire. A short book, just one story. The story of May the 5th, a night that would seal the village's fate. McCormy was an eager man, with high goals and unbroken determination to reach his goals. He set himself to build a successful community, to prove to him, to God, and to everyone that this once little laughed-at boy could indeed rule the world. One night, with his whiskey half emptied, a man in a black cloak, a black hat, and a sharp, piercing eyes chatted Arthur up and offered him the deal of his lifetime. He promised Arthur a rich, full life, reaching his goal to be the leader of a wealthy and healthy community, to be celebrated every year, even after his passing. In return, he only had a small sacrifice to give. In comparison, no one would ever know. A very small sacrifice. When asked for his name, the man answered, "I'm sure you know my name. You have read it." Arthur was tempted. He looked at his bottle. He took a deep, long, warm sip and I couldn't finish.
The body was coming up soon, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to include the bodies further up. It's too late for them.
Oh, I liked it when the well turned red, and I
Yeah.
kept thinking, May the 5th.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
I
hint.
thought too. Now it's happening.
Yeah.
Now we are going, and then
Yeah.
nothing. It was a blood tease, a slash tease, the worst
Yeah.
kind of tease.
Yeah. I have it in my mind. I didn't have enough time this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, to be honest, it was very detailed. I love your use of your language. It almost, I feel humbled, actually. I said this last time, but I'll say it again. You know, the fact that you guys can write so coherently and so descriptively when
In
it's not the
English.
first language. Wow.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Deutsch is about that of a 3-year-old.
Okay.
We train it a lot by watching a lot of movies, reading a lot of books in English. I read English since I'm 13. I
Yeah.
was with my cousin in America,
Yeah.
and he gave me the Dragonlance Chronicles. Don't know if you know those books. They were Dungeons and
Which
Dragons
ones?
books. The
Dragonlance.
Oh,
Chronicles.
Daniel does. Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
I needed 3 months and the dictionary for the first book, and it was really hard going. And I went to my English teacher basically every day and asked her, "What is that? I don't understand it." And I really worked through that. And then the next one was 2 months, and the next one 1 month. And then I was hooked, of course. And then I had to find a store before the internet where you could buy the legends in English, because in German they split the single books from the trilogy into 3 books. So you had to buy 9 books in Germany to read the Chronicles, 9 to read the legends, and so on. And I found a little shop that sold the English versions, and then I bought them all in English. And ever since then, I read basically in English. And that helped quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have to say, while in university, German books are very specific, but highly complicated. Sometimes you have to read sentences twice to understand what they mean, and then you have to understand the topic as well. So just to understand the German words and what they're going to, and then understand the subject is 2 things. And through all those big books, this is a pain. And we used to buy American books about the topics we had to learn because they are just plain describing what should be described. And it was simpler to understand just the topics without this weird language around it, because they're getting to the point. Biology, physics, mathematics, even history. But I would be careful with the history books from America. It's easier to understand because they go straight to the point and make it easy to understand. While Germans, they on purpose make it difficult to understand, and that worked to our advantage in the studies. And when I was a little kid, I had to listen and speak English it was American English back then, and that kind of made it easy to me to understand English. And then I had a big break of like 10 years not speaking English. Actually, since we moved to the Black Forest. So for the past 10 years, I have not been speaking English. And just now, with playing with you, Danny, I'm getting back into the groove. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Because some of the memories come back too.
And of course, the role-playing helps when we play together, because it's all in English. And this helps telling stories in English and listening to people in English. So this is a great training for us.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I know what you mean about German books, because when I want to read a German author, a real German author, I'm blown away that I am constantly at the dictionary. Yet when I'm on holiday and I pick up some Stephen King translated into German, and I feel so, hey, look, I'm reading this in German, everyone. But really, I know that it's not actual. Well, I mean, it's translated German. It's the language, but it's very simple German. That's what I can cope with.
I find if I, like, say, Hermann Hesse, I've only read in English, but even then, although I enjoyed it, I knew I was missing layers and layers of knowledge because I couldn't read it in Deutsch. You can tell from the translations sometimes, and he's certainly one that I
He's quite a number, so especially the layers are interesting. And I think if from literature authors you translate, you always lose in translation. I think American and English and I don't know, Spanish authors all have those layers, and they get lost in translation. But the scientific books, I think I recommend them in English, preferably American English, because they are really eager to make it easy for people to understand things. They cut back on layers and get straight to what you need to know or want to know. And Germans, they build up those layers on purpose. They make it really hard for you to get to the point, and that's very tiresome.
Yes, they really want you to understand that they are more clever than you, which is really annoying. And this is probably because why you can read Stephen King a lot better, because already in English he makes sure that people enjoy his books without having to study it. And
exactly. He's a great storyteller.
Yes, exactly. And in German, we always have this. We want to show you that we are more clever than you, and this is just
goes
stupid.
For all the literature authors as well, Hesse, Kafka, whoever. They want to. They coquette with their knowledge, and they like it positively, but they like to show off as well. And that comes across in the language. It is a kind of game, playful and teasing, but not easy to cope with, even for Germans.
No, I think, in English, it's people like James Joyce who can do that with the English language, where it's beautiful and simple, but so complicated as well. And I definitely Kafka, I get that sense with him, that the playfulness in his stuff, definitely.
Yeah.
Shakespeare, but he's old English as well. Yeah,
exactly.
And there's a big difference between literary fiction, which is playing with the words and so on, and just they call it commercial fiction because it's stuff you can understand and that sells them better. And I think, well, it's not fiction, but I think in non-fiction books, you should not try to be a literary author. You should try to make it as easy to understand the subject matter, as easy to understand as possible for the person reading it. You should not build a hurdle in form of language, even if your language is playful, because you have someone there who bought the book because he wants to learn something about some subject. And that is his interest, and not to see how flowery your prose is or
Yeah,
how great
yeah.
you can write. He will measure this book on how good the information is and how good he can digest the information that he found in the book.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, yeah. If you are making your readers constantly go for the dictionary, you probably don't have very many readers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or return readers or
return.
5-star
Yes, you
reviews.
won't have return. That's true.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I'm eager
Okay.
to know your story, Daniel.
Yes.
This is Daniel's.
Well, it's short, thankfully, only 500 words, but and I thought that this was this was the start of, this is one of those sentences that I went, yeah, this is the start of a story. It's the very first sentence in the story, right? And another good tip, because my English teacher always said that, the people, when they read your work, they will probably skim the first few paragraphs, and if they're not interested by that, but this is such a captivating sentence.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a legend about the well in the garden. Jamie had heard it many times already, as his mother had always told him strange stories about the family home and the many adventures she had had with her brother and their second cousin Mary, who Jamie always called Aunt Mares, as that is what everybody called her, even back when his mother was a little girl. The legend spoke of a family of water sprites that had terrorized the inhabitants of Ganther Hall for generations. Jamie had never been able to fully appreciate the supposed terror of this. Even when his mother spoke of how she and her brother had lain awake night after night, unable to sleep for fear that the sprites would slosh into the house and steal them away down into the depths of the damp hole in the garden, he would just smile to himself. Jamie's mother was just doing what her mother had done to her, trying to scare him silly with stories about ghosts and goblins. Now that he stood in front of the well, he felt a little differently. Perhaps it was because the crumbling old stone circle looked so dangerous as his little dog, Terry, scampered around it. Maybe it was because his sister, Sophia, was standing leaning over the edge and peering into its depths as if mesmerized. There's something down there. I can hear splashing. Get away from there, Sophia. Jamie was a little surprised to find that he was experiencing a very real fear, and it made his voice tremble as he called out to his sister. He could feel the sting of tears, and then his glasses fogged up as he scrambled to clean them, his vision momentarily blurred due to the removal of his spectacles. But once he put them back on, he blinked, as he could not quite believe what he was seeing. Sophia was gone. There hadn't been a sound. His dog was still scampering about, but his sister had disappeared completely. Jamie was ready to scream, but then a hand fell on his shoulder, and he noticed the bright red ruby jeweled ring that had once belonged to his grandmother, but had been passed down to Aunt Mares when she had passed away some years ago. Now, Jamie, there's no need to be frightened, rasped the old lady's voice. Jamie did not really know how old this woman was, but in his mind, she had always been old. The way that his mother had described her in the stories of their youth had always given Jamie the impression that even she had thought that she was old. But Sophia, Jamie mumbled. Sophia has left us now, continued the old lady for him. And then she turned him around, and Jamie was stunned to see his mother and father standing not far away with his Uncle Jim. They were all dressed in black and looked very somber. It's for the best, Jamie, whispered his mother.
Oh, a life well.
There we go. Sprites, fairies, goblins. No, dwarves, sorry.
Dwarves.
And blood redness. But yes, interesting. Again, I'm sorry, I'm finding a lot of similarities between all our stories here. It's fascinating little...
There was some intro.
Yeah.
But again, both sentences did were quite leading in that sense.
Yeah, it evoked for me, it evoked immediately some fairy tale-like character.
Yeah.
Because I did not think this is a well like a modern well. I immediately had this ring of stones in my head.
Yeah.
Usually you have this little roof and the bucket that comes from a rope, and that kind of well immediately jumped into my head.
Yeah.
I thought of a very modern kind of well, like with a sprinkling sound and a figurine statue kind of.
Ah, yeah.
And I thought, this is rich. This has to be, there has to be something about wealth around this, and there has to be blood and death, and something about crossroads. And I thought, the evil part, it has to be there.
Yeah,
No
Ilka,
worries.
I think you really should try yourself on a slasher book. I think it would be grand.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
definitely.
that could work.
Oh no.
Yeah. You have this bloodthirsty sparkle in your eye.
The beauty artist, the makeup artist, and the slasher books.
Yeah, why
Yes,
not?
exactly.
good-
Absolutely.
It's a good contrast
work
from
well
all the
together.
pink.
It is, absolutely.
Especially, think of American Horror Story. All of those things are in there. All of them.
Yeah.
You'll find all the fashions.
Oh, we even found Mary Kay in American Horror Story. We were watching the last season with that
In American
summer
Horror
camp,
Story.
and there was a
Ah,
Mary
this-
Kay lady in it, and I had to laugh so hard when I saw it.
I like that part very much. Even though she dies, I like that part very much. Mary Kay is very important in the USA and helped liberating a whole generation of women and helped the process of women getting jobs. So that is quite legend.
Hmm.
And I like that they put it into movies that are not related to anything of that, but sprinkle in little story bits. I like that very much.
Well, it is part of American tradition now, isn't it? I mean, it's probably not even product placement, is it? It's probably just that they went, no, we
Yeah.
have to use Mary Kay. It's
Yeah.
we have Avon, I suppose, in Australia, a similar sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
if anybody put an Avon lady into an Australian show, we'd be like, oh yeah, Avon's calling.
Is Avon
Yeah.
from Australia?
I don't know.
don't know if it's originally from there, but any Australian would just go ding dong. Avon's calling.
Avon's calling.
Avon's calling. But every Australian will know that
Yeah.
phrase. And then it would be Herbalife was a bit. Oh, Tupperware, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tupperware. What was the other one? The start with A. They
Amway?
sell Amway.
Yeah.
Is the
Amway.
other one.
My
The
my
Amway
parents
was
were
quite
into
big.
Amway. They were Amway consultants for a while.
Yeah.
Where I got my first whiteboard because they were showing stuff on the whiteboard, and I used the
Yeah.
whiteboard to draw comics. I loved the whiteboard.
I didn't even know AM until I met you, Torsten.
Yeah,
I
and
did
they
know
had this,
Avon.
and I like the slogan of Amway: "Fly like an eagle or scratch like a chicken."
Was it? I don't remember that one.
Yeah. Well, it's stuff you remember from your childhood. I thought once I understood it because my dad didn't speak English. He tried to explain what he understood what it was, and only
Yeah.
later I really realized what the sentence was and what it meant. But I really liked that one.
I don't remember that one. I had friends who sold Amway and tried to get me to sell it, and then I went, but that would mean people I know would have to buy it, and they went, yeah. I said, well, it's not going to happen. Yeah, just because I knew no one in my family was going to buy it or anything like that.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? You had to sort of jib your family and friends into help me with my my career. But we did have Mary Kay. I'm pretty sure we had that friend of mine, Kim, is actually David, had a Mary Kay
Oh.
consultant come around once, and she looked fabulous afterwards. I will say.
Yeah.
Kim is.
Yes.
Yeah, the good thing with,
Well, that's a
with
big
Mary
effort.
Kay is everybody needs lotion. Everybody needs soap. Everybody wants something to preserve the beauty they have or to better the skin. You can have a pen, and if it's scratched, you buy a new pen. You can have a car, and if you crash it, you can buy a new car. But your skin stays with you forever. You can
Yeah.
still get shoes, but you
Look,
cannot.
I've got a
push
hole
up.
here somewhere.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
there is a need for products that are good, and that is the reason why I feel good selling them, because they are really awesome products. I use every product I sell. There's no crap in it, and
Well, I have good.
love makeup, so
I have good news and bad news about Mary Kay in Australia. Mary Kay's been in Australia since 1971 and was the first international subsidiary out of the USA. But sadly, March of last year, they closed all their Australian and New Zealand operations, citing market conditions and the pandemic. They closed it all down just last year. So, yeah, from 71.
That seems odd.
I think so too, because the market is exploding. I'm surprised. It's like there are three markets that work well, three legal markets that work well in every crisis. That's,
well, they're suggesting Australians just don't buy at the door anymore.
No.
I was just doing a quick read of that article. There was somebody from a university with an opinion.
What are they? Sorry, Ilke, what were those? Alcohol,
pharmacy, and cosmetics. Those three work in every worldwide crisis, locally, regionally, and worldwide. And of course, there is prostitution, which is not legal everywhere, but if you count those in, prostitution is as well a business that works every time.
and everyone needs a lawyer.
By lawyers.
Not so much. Yeah, but not so much. You could.
But yeah,
You could die as a
They don't go out of business. They just stay.
Yeah.
they never go out of business.
They're
but
not
then
really
they will.
affected.
But
Well, I
alcohol,
think-
pharmacy, and cosmetics, they are exploding right now and going on. And in good times, they grow, and in bad times, they explode. So there is no stopping them.
I think we're getting a bit away from the flash fiction.
We are.
Oh,
So I'm would end the broadcast here, but if you stay in the room, we can have this interesting conversation without additional viewers, which might be a good thing, especially since the prostitutes are coming out. So thank you everybody for
listening, are they?
for joining us for this flash fiction section. I think we have proven that we are a very dark crowd, so maybe our next banner will reflect that we cater to the darker areas of the mind and the stories. So see you next time. Again on a Sunday, not in 2 weeks because we are on vacation then, but probably in 4 weeks then. And I'm looking forward to see where the prompt generator drives us next.
Yeah.
I come
Thank
over to
you.
your room.
No, stay there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you both.
Oh, there's my camera.
Oh, stay in there. Stay in there.
Yeah.